Hi, I'm Ken from Get a Grip Cycles. Let's take a look at how Seven produces custom bikes.
Hi, I'm Rob Vandermark. Welcome to Seven Cycles. We're going to get a tour of the factory, and you're going to get to see how Seven makes custom bikes and every bike to order. So come on in. So the first step to building the Seven, once we receive an order and have confirmed it with a customer and the retailer, is we'll choose the tube set, and that begins in here. So this is a frame that we've done the design work on, and the tube set selection begins with a calculation based on the type of bike the rider's using, the rider's weight, preferences of how stiff or comfortable they want the bike. Once that is done, we're ready to start manufacturing. So now we go out in the shop and select the tube set from there. So here we are, we start in the tubing area, and behind me is all the raw materials for any titanium, carbon, or steel bike that we build. The drawing says what tubing and then how they're going to modify, butt, and tailor the tubing to fine-tune the ride characteristics. So just getting started, cut off, head tube butting, picking the small parts. Once they're done there, they go on to these different cells that we have. We have 3 machinists that build the entire frame from start to finish. So one person will start a frame, let's say Jason. John is already part way through, and then Matt or Skip may be on another frame ahead of them. So they'll kind of follow each other around and do this dance. So this area here is where we're doing front end coping on the bike. Next cell over here is where we're doing bending on the frame and some of the details of the rear end of the bike. And then the last cell here is the rear end of the bike, coping of the rear end. So the next step in this is to go to the frame jig. The parts go into the jig and the person starts tacking the parts up. Each welder, similar to machining, welds the entire frame from start to finish, whether it's steel, titanium, titanium carbon. Steph is just starting welding this frame. Now she's going to weld the entire frame outside of the frame jig, which may seem a little odd, but when the frame comes out of the frame jig, it's perfectly aligned. And then as she's welding it, it's going to go out of alignment because welding puts heat in the frame, it distorts the frame. So she's going to weld it, check it on the table, weld it, check it again. If it's going out, she's going to change the weld pattern to make sure that the frame is straight when it comes out of welding. We spend a lot of time and energy on making sure the frame is as perfectly aligned as possible. When you have to align a frame, if it's out of tolerance, and you align it, what we call cold setting it, that does damage to the frame. So we try to avoid that whenever possible. It's so that the bike rides well. It rides straight, true, you can ride no hands. It just feels more stable without feeling sluggish. And I think gives that some of its soul. All right, so once they're done welding, we come into final machining area. So coming out of welding, the shell looks like a thick piece of pipe essentially. And that is thick so that it minimizes distortion that occurs in welding. So we have to somehow put threads in that thing, and there's a lot of ways to do it, but the most accurate way is to use a CNC machine to thread the bottom bracket shell. So when it's done, it ends up looking like that. So it's a much thinner shell, there are threads in it, and then we counter bore the inside so that it's even thinner. And those threads are perfectly, within a few thousandths, aligned in plane to the frame. It's a really critical piece of the puzzle. So once we get through final machining, the next step is to check the alignment of the frame. Because this bottom bracket shell has been threaded, we can now find out if the shell is accurate, if all the tubes from welding have come out straight. After the alignment steps are done, the next step is we insert a composite sleeve into the seat tube, and that makes it so that the seat post that goes in, whether it's titanium, aluminum, carbon, whatever, won't gall and seize to the titanium tube. From here, we move on to the finishing, sort of what makes the bike look the way you'll see it when you get it in the shop. So come with me. So now we're into the finishing. All the alignment's been checked, all the prep work is done, the bottom bracket's been threaded. So now the real focus is making the bike as beautiful as possible for the customer. Matt is doing the finished work. He's removing any oxide, any dirt and grime that gets on the frame through the process. So he's getting the frame ready now for decals and final waxing of the frame. But from here we go to paint, because that frame's getting painted. We'll see what it's going to look like. So in the painting process, we think about both safety for the painter and then cleanliness for the paint scheme, because any dirt, anything gets in paint, it shows up. So you got to have a really clean painting environment. First step in paint is mixing the colors. So we have this paint room here where we do all the mixing. We've got a paint bank, and what this paint bank allows us to do is mix virtually any color a customer would want. Once they've mixed it, they go into the paint room. Ben is doing some prep work right now. He's doing some fine detail work, so it's ready for the final step in paint, getting clear coated. So right now it sort of looks like a matte finish, kind of a dull finish. Once it's cleared, it'll really be bright and shiny, and that sort of brown green will really pop really well. So it's going to be a cool looking bike. So now we're into the fatigue testing area of the company, and we spend a lot of time doing fatigue testing. In fact, we built this tester from the ground up, and it gets run all the time. Right now we're doing some testing on some joint materials, welding processes, brazing techniques to do fatigue testing to see what lasts longest, what has the best service life, and learning properties about that, because there's not a lot of good data in the industry. So this is a pretty neat project. It's very small and a little bit hard to see, but we're just testing a T-joint, welded T-joint, to see how long it'll last with given certain properties of the material. A lot of times we'll use this tester for testing, doing fatigue testing on frame prototypes, and you can kind of see how that would connect or be set up as a frame tester. We also use this tester for seat post testing, stem testing, any product that we're working with, fork testing. So we designed this to be able to be very versatile in how we do testing. It's a really unique tool within the bike industry. There are other testers, but this thing can do so much. It's pretty exciting. We use it all the time. So that's a brief overview of how we build bikes at 7 Cycles. Every bike custom made to order. So if you're interested, visit Get a Grip Cycles in Chicago, and they'll walk you through the process, and we're happy to talk to you too. And if you're ever in town, come visit us, and make sure you visit Get a Grip Cycles. Thanks so much.